Marvin Redpost, Class President, by Lucy Carr. Chapter 2. Casey Hamilton usually sat at the desk next to Marvin. She was absent today. Marvin was disappointed to see her desk empty. She was a funny girl, and she knew she would have liked whole day. "I must say," said Mrs. North, "you are all so well dressed today. I've never seen a better looking group of third graders." Everyone laughed. "How'd you get a hole in your shirt?" Kenny asked. "I was working in my garden," said Mrs. North. "My shirt got snagged on the third floor rose bush." Marvin nodded. He should have guessed. "We should dress this all the time," said Judy Jasper. "That way nobody will feel bad if their parents are too poor to buy them new clothes." "That's a good idea," said Mrs. North. Marvin thought so too. "And the holes keep you cool on a hot day," Stuart pointed out. "You're right," said Mrs. North. Marvin agreed. Holes make perfect sense. He wondered why nobody had thought of it before. A child's voice came over the PA system. "Please raise for the Pledge of Allegiance." Every day, a different kid got to lead the school in the pledge. "That's Casey," said Judy Jasper. Marvin recognized Casey's voice as she recited the pledge. She sounded very serious. He put his hand over his heart and said it along with her. That when Casey came back to class, she told Mrs. North that Mr. McCabe wanted to see her. Mr. McCabe was the principal. "Did he say why?" Mrs. North asked. Casey shook her head. Casey wore a shirt that was way big for her. Marvin guessed it was her father's. Not only she had holes in it, but it also had paint spilled on it. Mrs. North told the class she would be gone for only a minute. She said she expected everyone would behave and to use their time wisely. After she left, Nick said, "I bet you Mrs. North will get in trouble for wearing torn clothes." "No, Mr. McKay is also wearing torn clothes," said Casey. "I saw his elbow." "What did it look like?" asked Judy. "Pink and bumpy," said Casey. Casey had a ponytail that starts out of the side of her head instead of the back. She sat down next to Marvin. The ponytail was on Marvin's side. Sometimes when Casey laughed really hard, her ponytail went around in circles. Mrs. North was gone for a lot longer than a minute. When she returned, she had a very strange expression on her face. She looked lost. She opened her mouth, but didn't say anything. "Are you all right?" asked Kenny. Mrs. North looked at Kenny, but still didn't say anything. Finally, she spoke. She said, "We are?" Then stopped. Then she started again. That was as far as she got. She tried again. "I expect." Her mouth shut tight. She tapped her desk with her fist. At last, she managed to say the complete sentence. "We are going to have a visitor today." Marvin couldn't wait to hear who it was. From the way Mrs. North was acting, he thought it must be somebody weird. "Who is it?" asked Warren. "It's somebody I've heard of," asked Nick. "Oh, I hope so, Nick," said Mrs. North. Then she took a deep breath and said, "The president will be coming here." Everyone gasped. Marvin was a little confused. He didn't sure which president Mrs. North meant. Did she mean the president of the United States? Or did she mean the president of something else, like the president of the shoe company? Marvin's school was in Maryland. It was less than 20 miles from Washington, D.C. His father worked in Washington, D.C., so it was possible that Mrs. North meant the president of the United States. But why would the president of the United States come to his school? He raised his hand. Patsy Gapsy waved her hand too. "Yes, Patsy," said Mrs. North. "The president of what?" said Patsy. Mrs. North stared at her as she thought Patsy was an alien from another planet. "The president of the United States," she said. "Duh," said Travis. Patsy blushed. Sometimes I wonder about you, Patsy," said Mrs. North. What do you think? The president of Mexico?" said Clarence. Marvin turned red too, but nobody noticed. He lowered his hand. "Yes, Marvin, do you have any question?" asked Mrs. North. She shook his head. "No, I was just stretching." Mrs. North explained that even Mr. McCabe hadn't known the president was coming until 10 minutes ago. It had been kept a secret for security reasons. Now I know I don't have to tell you how to behave when President gets here, she said. Then she told everyone how to behave. Be respectful, be attentive. If you get a chance to speak to him, remember to speak loud and clear. You should call him Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President? Thank you, Mr. President. Remember to... Mrs. Joy suddenly stopped talking. Oh my gosh, she exclaimed. I have to change my clothes.